It was January 15, 2009, a typically chilly winter day in New York City. The streets were bustling with people wrapped in heavy coats, their breath visible in the frosty air. U.S. Airways Flight 1549, an Airbus A320, was scheduled to depart from LaGuardia Airport, bound for Charlotte, North Carolina. The aircraft stood ready at the gate, its sleek body glistening under the overcast sky. On board were 150 passengers and 5 crew members, all eager to reach their destinations. Some were traveling for business, others for leisure, but all shared the common goal of a safe and uneventful flight. At the helm was Captain Chesley Sullenberger, a veteran pilot with over 40 years of experience. His calm demeanor and extensive knowledge made him a reassuring presence in the cockpit. His co-pilot, First Officer Skiles, was equally skilled, ensuring a confident start to the journey. Together, they formed a formidable team, ready to handle any situation that might arise. The Airbus lifted off from the runway at 3:24 p.m., beginning its ascent over the bustling city. The passengers settled into their seats, some gazing out the windows at the receding skyline. All seemed routine, the familiar hum of the engines a comforting sound. The flight attendants began their service, and the passengers relaxed, expecting a smooth journey ahead. Little did anyone know, fate had a different plan for Flight 1549. The skies, which had seemed so benign, were about to become the stage for an extraordinary event. This routine flight would soon transform into a story of extraordinary courage, skill, and the will to survive. The ordinary was about to become extraordinary in the blink of an eye. In a matter of seconds, the ordinary became extraordinary, forever etching this flight into aviation history. The events that followed would be recounted and studied for years to come. As the plane climbed to an altitude of approximately 3,000 feet, disaster struck. The serene atmosphere inside the cabin was shattered in an instant. A flock of Canada geese, large birds known for their long-distance migrations, flew directly into the path of the aircraft. The birds, oblivious to the impending danger, continued their flight pattern. The impact was deafening and immediate. The force of the collision sent shockwaves through the aircraft, startling passengers and crew alike. Multiple birds were ingested into both engines, causing an unprecedented double-engine failure. The once powerful engines were now silent, their mechanical heartbeats stilled by the avian intruders. The sudden silence was deafening, the once familiar hum of the engines replaced by an eerie quiet. Passengers exchanged worried glances, their previous calm replaced by growing concern. Inside the cockpit, alarms blared, warning of the catastrophic engine failure. The pilots' training kicked in, their minds racing to assess the situation and determine the best course of action. Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles immediately began going through their emergency procedures. Their hands moved with practiced precision, each action a testament to their training and experience. Time seemed to slow down, each second feeling like an eternity. The weight of the situation pressed heavily on their shoulders, but they remained focused and determined. With both engines disabled, Flight 1549 was rapidly losing altitude, becoming a glider over one of the most densely populated cities in the world. The pilots knew they had only moments to make critical decisions that would determine the fate of everyone on board. The sudden loss of power was startling, even for seasoned pilots like Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles. In an instant, the familiar hum of the engines was replaced by an eerie silence, a silence that spoke volumes about the gravity of their situation. They had trained for such scenarios in simulators, but nothing could truly replicate the reality of 2 failed engines, thousands of feet above the ground. The simulators could mimic the technical aspects, but the emotional weight of the moment was something no training could fully prepare them for. Their training kicked in instinctively, their years of experience guiding their every move. Every action was deliberate, every decision calculated. They were in a race against time, and their only ally was their expertise. They knew they had to act quickly and decisively to save the lives entrusted to them. Communication was key. Every word exchanged between them was crucial. They had to be clear, concise, and above all, calm. The first priority was to attempt to restart the engines. This was their best chance at regaining control of the aircraft and avoiding a catastrophic outcome. Sullenberger took over the controls, while Skiles methodically went through the engine restart checklist. Each step was followed with precision, their training guiding them through the process. They tried everything, their hands moving with practiced precision, but the engines remained unresponsive. The checklist was their lifeline, but it was becoming clear that it might not be enough. The birds had caused irreparable damage, leaving the plane crippled in the air. The engines, once the heart of the aircraft, were now lifeless, and the reality of their predicament was sinking in. The hope of restarting the engines dwindled with each passing second. The cockpit, usually a place of control and command, was now filled with an unsettling uncertainty. Looking out the cockpit windows, the pilots were met with a chilling sight. The sprawling cityscape below was a stark reminder of the stakes at hand. The bustling cityscape of Manhattan was quickly approaching, its towering skyscrapers a stark reminder of the danger they were in. Options were rapidly disappearing. The urban landscape offered no safe haven, only obstacles. They were too low to glide back to LaGuardia, and attempting to reach another airport was out of the question. The altitude they had left was precious, and they had to make every second count. The reality of their situation began to set in. They were facing an emergency landing with no runway in sight. The Hudson River, a daunting expanse of water, was now their best option. Amidst the chaos, a sense of calm descended upon the cockpit. It was a calm born of necessity, a calm that allowed them to think clearly and act decisively. Years of training and experience had prepared them for this very moment, however improbable it seemed. They had drilled for emergencies, practiced for the unexpected, and now it was all coming to bear. They knew they had to remain focused, to harness their fear and channel it into action. Every decision, every movement was critical. There was no room for error. The lives of 155 souls rested on their shoulders, and they were determined to do everything in their power to ensure their survival. The weight of responsibility was immense, but so was their resolve. With every passing moment, the situation grew more dire. The engines had failed, and the plane was losing altitude rapidly. The passengers, gripped by fear, could only hope for a miracle. The plane continued to descend, the ground looming ever closer. From the windows, the passengers could see the cityscape below, a stark reminder of the potential disaster that awaited them. Captain Sullenberger, his voice remarkably calm amidst the crisis, contacted air traffic control declaring an emergency. He knew that every second counted, and his quick thinking was crucial. "We're gonna be in the Hudson," he announced, his words echoing the gravity of the situation. The decision was made in a heartbeat, but it carried the weight of countless lives. It was a decision born out of desperation, a last resort to avoid a catastrophic crash in a densely populated area. The city below was teeming with life, and any miscalculation could lead to unimaginable loss. The Hudson River, a frigid and unforgiving body of water in the heart of winter, was now their only option. The icy waters presented their own set of challenges, but it was the lesser of two evils. It was a risky maneuver, landing a large aircraft on water, fraught with its own set of dangers. The chances of a successful water landing were slim, but it was a risk they had to take. The plane could break apart on impact, sending passengers plunging into the icy depths. The cold water could quickly sap their strength, making survival even more difficult. But Sullenberger knew that the alternative, attempting to land in a densely populated area, was far more perilous. The potential for massive casualties was too great to risk. He had to trust his instincts, his years of experience, and the skill of his crew to pull off this near-impossible feat. The crew, trained for emergencies, worked in unison, each playing a critical role. Time seemed to stand still as Captain Sullenberger made his decision. Every moment was a test of his resolve and his ability to stay calm under pressure. He knew the odds were stacked against them, that a successful water landing was almost unheard of. Yet, he remained focused, determined to defy the odds. But his resolve never wavered. He was committed to doing everything in his power to ensure the safety of everyone on board. He had made a promise to protect his passengers and crew, and he intended to keep it, no matter the cost. The lives of 155 people depended on his actions, and he was ready to face the challenge head-on. With the Hudson River in sight, a ribbon of dark water cutting through the concrete jungle, Captain Sullenberger took a deep breath and prepared for the improbable. He announced to the passengers and crew, his voice steady and reassuring, "This is the captain. Brace for impact." There was no panic in his voice, only a quiet determination that resonated throughout the cabin. His words, though chilling, instilled a sense of hope, a belief that they just might make it out of this alive. First Officer Skiles, his eyes glued to the instruments, continued to assist Captain Sullenberger, their coordination seamless. They worked together, two parts of a well-oiled machine, their movements precise and synchronized. The tension in the cockpit was palpable. Yet they remained focused, their eyes darting between the instruments and the rapidly approaching water. Every second counted, every action critical to their survival. Captain Sullenberger, with nerves of steel, maintained his composure, his voice a beacon of calm amidst the chaos. He adjusted the flaps, maneuvering the powerless aircraft with remarkable skill. Aiming for a stretch of water clear of boats and debris, the plane descended rapidly, its wings slicing through the air, the city skyline becoming a blur in the windows. The moment of truth was upon them.